now I'm on another live, so can you see me? I'm back. I shut the other one down, I thought. So is anybody still here? It's acting like it's a brand new chat. Okay. Okay, there's someone said Randall Davison, it's working. But do you have to, Randall, did you have to sign off of the other live stream and come back to this one, or did this show up as... Oh my gosh. All right. Hang on, y'all. I see people showing up. Go back and shut the other one down. Technical difficulties. It's so frustrating. It just showed up. All right, Randall, I'll be back. Okay, so how do I do this? Boom! Now I'm live. Okay. I can see this one has some comments. I can see PJF looking at a CRV. I know you got one. Any regrets? We do not have any regrets. And it's starting to get dark here. I apologize. I don't know what was going on with the phone and the YouTube and everything else. It cut off right at the grand solar minimum, and I was agreeing with you all and all the points you guys were. Oh, look at that. I had my little tinny lamp past and put on the big lights. Whoa. And some of y'all are making some really good points, and I appreciate you putting the thumbs up, and I appreciate you hanging in there and coming back to the live stream, because I find it super frustrating when I'm watching a live stream and it let me adjust that, and it does the same thing, buffering and all that nonsense. Hello, Spaz Mama and Aid. How are you? Aid, I especially want to hear what you think about the grand solar minimum, because we've been talking about it. Oregon Berry, hola. Do you guys have rain out there, Oregon? And there I am. Yes, there I am. And hopefully the rest of the people who were on the other live streams will then come back. Sunny, yeah. The way I hear it is you guys need some rain. Hey, MJ. I follow Suspicious Observer. Whoop. Let me get this tied right. Dora Sheridan, hello. You did find me. Here I am, finally. No rain on the coast in Oregon, Ingrid's kitchen garden. Exactly. That's what I heard. And that rain is needed. And it's in short supply this year. And I'm sorry to hear that. So some of the things y'all were saying before we got cut off was how would we prep for the solar minimum? And you guys had some great suggestions. You said greenhouses and plants that would be able to stand to that temperature, you know, a cooler temperature. And I was about to say, yep, I agree with that. Things like broccoli and Brussels sprouts and cauliflower and things like that would do better in a colder climate. Lamp Keeper, are we back for good? I hope so. You know me, I don't do live streams for a really long time, but I didn't intend for it to get broken off. So hopefully, Lamp Keeper, we are. And my phone, I don't even know what happened. I have, 2 bars of reception or whatever, so it should, and it's charged up, it should be able to go. So I don't know if that was me or YouTube, but cool weather plants for sure. And hot boxes. Yep. We had just said that hot boxes would also be a way to deal with it. And then on the not just plants involved, but just your whole life, everyone's going to have to dress differently, obviously. Excuse me. And the thing about people looking to events in the past, like that would have happened in 1645 and other mini ice ages, one of which I talked about in another video. I think it was around 1100, right after a huge volcanic explosion out in the Pacific Ocean. There was 3 years of darkness and no plants grew, and it was, like the dark ages. I wonder if these people who are studying these solar minimums are looking beyond just what two, what do you call the guys who peer through the telescopes? Astronomers wrote about these sunspots, because they basically had, the year 1640, and I saw 9 sunspots through my telescope. According to the Google article, these people, these astronomers, were pretty dedicated, so maybe they were checking each day for how many sunspots. But again, I brought up the point, how good were their telescopes? But what else was going on in 1645, if you know what I mean? Cooler temperatures can be caused by more than just the sun's activity. Cooler temperatures, as an example I already gave you, volcanic explosions can cause much cooler weather, mini ice ages. Huge fires, huge forest fires put a lot of smoke up in the air, and they can affect the temperature. Earthquakes can affect temperature. Ocean currents can affect temperature, and the Gulf Stream, jet stream, coming down for whatever reason to ground level can cause big temperature changes. So how do modern scientists base a whole theory 11 years long and so on just the observations of 2 guys? You know what I'm saying? So I researched a little farther, and some of what the modern scientists are basing it on is also radiocarbon stuff, tree rings, and I think they said like beryllium or some sort of radioactive. They do core. What do you words come out? Just like with tree rings, they do like a core sample from the ground, and they pull it out, and based on how much soil or what's going on in the soil, they think that there was a cold time in the medieval days as well, and I'm sure there's writings about it. But to then come up with a whole theory that they're 11 years long and they do these things, and I don't know if they've got enough information to make those kind of judgments. And so that's why I can't be completely convinced that they can predict from 2020 to 2053 that there's going to be a grand solar minimum, and that the climate is going to change a degree. What did I say? 1 to 1.5 degrees centigrade is going to cause that major of a change. And then someone had made comments on here. Hey, Wes. Hey, Brandon. Hey, Randall. Randall says it's a cascading issue. It's not just cold. It's abnormalities that affect planting seasons, abnormal frost, extreme heat. Well, right. They said it was like, what did they say about, in 1645 timeframe, they said it was the abundant ozone, ocean currents, and the reduced solar activity. And that's what caused the cold weather in those days. Hey, Ron, I plan on having a cinder block wall with a rocket stove in my greenhouse. That makes perfect sense. I think that'd be wonderful. I believe you're talking about Krakatoa. I probably was talking about Krakatoa. I also looked up 2 other explosions in the Maunder minimum, the 1645 time period, and there were 2 major explosions. There was one in 1450 in Vanuatu that had so much material thrown into the air. This explosion was huge, and they had a scale, and there were just various volcanic eruptions, and a lot of them were, a number 1 and a number 2, and this Vanuatu one was 128, and that was 1450. And then there was another one in Papua New Guinea in 1660 timeframe that had the number of the material thrown up, and I'm assuming it's like millions of tons, was 30. So those 2 in conjunction could have had a huge effect on what was happening during that Maunder minimum time, not just the sun spots and some things. We have had 45 volcanoes blow so far this year. A normal year has about 60. But, right, and how much of that stuff in the air from those eruptions are going to change the temperature now? You can check for sunspots using a tin plate and a white piece of paper. Common Sense Homestead said, I raise bees. We should be in a mid-flow. Certainly behind this year, cold weather could affect pollination. Well, that's another issue that we're seeing here, because word is that there aren't bees around now. And so Pastor and I were actually a little concerned about that, because we have lots and lots of blackberries and fruits and nut trees and everything. And there are bees. We went out there and actually checked. There's not as many as I've shown in the past. I actually had, it was either on the community section or maybe it was on the channel. I went out and showed the wild rose bush right outside the door here, covered in bees. Like the sound of the bees was so loud that when I stepped outside, I could just hear them going. And right now, there's not as many, but they're there. But you're right. If the bees aren't flying because it's cooler, because that was the other thing we heard, they don't, unless it's 60 degrees or higher, they don't like flying out. They don't go do their thing. It could affect pollination. So let me, wow. Oh, wait a minute. When the ice age hits, I am set. I have cases of shaved ice flavoring snow cone. Off topic question. If you had to move back to Babylon in Northern Virginia, where would you go? I wouldn't go into anywhere near the suburbs of DC. I would be out far. I would be out on Route 50 or out on 66 or something, at least an hour outside of DC. Currently somewhere around 50 active volcanoes are spewing. That's why old painting skies are so gloomy. It's actually what it looked like. Well, it's true. That's some of the evidence they used, is that some of the older paintings actually showed a very dark sky from the volcanic eruptions. The bees I've seen are lethargic. I place raw wood to attract carpenter bees around my garden. Hey, there's Lone Star living. Shalom, brother. I'm moving to Panama then. Northern Ozark Homesteading. Evening, SK. Thanks for jumping on live stream to pass your wisdom. Well, you're welcome. According to some scientific research in the Netherlands, when Strauss was making violins, the reason being was because we were in a mini ice age at that time. Yeah, I don't doubt that there was mini ice ages, because looking at volcanic explosions, they caused mini ice ages, whether solar minimums also did or not. So I agree with that. And people did write about it. Did you look into the Russian mathematician that predicted it? Not very far, Lampkeeper. If you have more information on her, I would like to know that. I didn't see Valentina Zarkov, I think they said her name was. And I think her report is the one that said 2019 there was very little sun activity, and 2020 there was like very little sunspot activity, and that's kind of how they're starting to think it's already begun. Core sampling of ice tells us a lot. Yeah, but Wes, the problem I have with the core sampling of ice, how do they know what the weather did? Like if you had, let's say you were in the Alps during World War I and there was 20 to 30 feet of snow, which it did. How do you know that's in just a year's time? And then the next year when it only has like an inch of snow because the temperature changed, how do you tell the differentiation? Like I understand what they are, but I've seen, I think it was Bill Nye the Science Guy, try to make some kind of conclusion about ice core findings, and I was not impressed with the conclusion he came up with. You need evidence of stuff like that. You need to have a standard and things. Kyle Minyard says, we have had to replant twice this year, and our wheat was beautiful till last week, and it started to mold due to the weather. That's another really good point. I shot a video today, and I think Pastor said finally it's up. But related to that, some of the activity I did today, besides planting, was I treated some some bushes in my orchard because they are getting fungus on them. Well, of course they would. We've had a really rainy spring. And so if you're a gardener or even a rancher, there's causes and effects, right? So if it's going to be a really rainy season and you have a swampy area that your cattle are in, you're going to want to be thinking, I've got to change where they are, or I've got to put something down there because they'll get foot rot, right? You know that the wet soil is not what they're used to, is not the perfect thing for them to be standing on. And so if you know you've had way more rain, move them to a higher ground, or dump gravel down there or something. It's the same with your plants. If you, like us, and I'm not, obviously the coast of Oregon, this is not going to be all, it's very, very sunny, but we've had a lot of rain and cooler temperatures, then obviously fungus around here may grow. We're a subtropical region. We're very moist, heat, fungus. That's how that works. And so I've been spraying my plants down there with antifungal to try to keep that in check, with stuff that'll dry that fungus, whether it's, and I've done it a couple of times where I put it on and then it rained the next day. So I have to go put it on again as soon as there's another sunny day and try to stay ahead of it. But that's a good point. Is it okay to post links? Lamp Keeper, is that for Valentina Zarkov? I think I'd probably say okay. Hey, Andy, been praying for an unnamed request since you first asked. Been praying for mercy and favor in addition to being in Yazma. Oh, thank you so much, Evander. It's an ongoing. It's an ongoing thing. It's going to be a while. So as much as you're willing to pray, hallelujah. Southern New Hampshire has been lucky with respect to all the late freezes that kept happening across the Midwest and South. Awesome. And, as a gardener, you're going to watch the weather too. At least I would, because we knew that one frost was coming. And so I took what precautions I could. And I actually had some squash plants survive and the fruit on my fruit trees. And so it's not, gardening is it's not just plant a few things in the ground, it's going to grow and everything's perfect. You have to look at what's influencing your plants and try to deal with it, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay, so I'm way behind. Yes, for her full-length video. Yeah, go ahead, Lamp Keeper. Great crop to grow is mushrooms in logs. They are very easy to grow, especially in moist. True. I haven't tried it, but it's true. Core sampling does not support man-made climate change. It does, however, support cyclical climate variations. That I can agree with, Wes. My garden is on the east side of Mom's house. Our front yard is only flat spot on our lot. Well, and your garden, you want your garden to be south facing because that's where the most sunlight comes from and the plants need it to grow. Northwest Arkansas Prepper is back. Sorry, I lost connection. Sorry, I lost connection. I don't know what happened with my phone, but it just cut out in the middle of it. And then it wouldn't sign off the other live stream. And so here I am trying to sign it off, and it's just keeping it live. And it won't show pictures, and it wouldn't show the chat or anything. And it's modern technology. It's very frustrating. Is there a shorter growing season that means more hay and feed for livestock? If there is a shorter growing season, that means more hay. There's a shorter growing season that means more hay and feed for livestock. Right, exactly right, Common Sense Homestead. If you've got a shorter growing season, you're going to have to supplement your animals more. And that's one reason why I have goats. Because goats eat lots of weeds, and weeds grow. I mean, even with all the wet, we have weeds here. Some of them, the curly dog has leaves 1.5 feet long. And I think it's because where it's growing is runoff from some cattle rancher's field. So to maximize your growing, you're going to want to fertilize your soil that you're trying to grow stuff into, help that soil produce more for you, and be ready to harvest sooner if you can. Or you may have to harvest sooner, so be ready for that, is what I'm trying to say. Like tomatoes, if you cut them off with the vine attached and you put them in a paper bag, they will ripen in the paper bag. Just be ready to go out there and bring stuff in if an early frost comes. Even dig your plants up and bring them inside to keep them alive, or cover them or something. Weeds are built for climate over time, perfectly suited. Exactly, Mark. Northwest Arkansas, aka Jack Frock's cousin. Oh, wait a minute. With all this rain, high tunnels seem a great idea. Exactly. We are putting in some food plots to see if the ground will support pasture. Nice. Our goats seem to not want anything, only the tall grass. What grain should be grown in what area for 50 chickens? Well, I think you should have a variety of grain for your chickens. I give my chickens, the feed, which is there's protein in there, and I'm not sure if that's coming from whey or something. But Milo is something that chickens eat in scratch. Corn is something they eat. Sunflower seeds, and the sunflower seeds that I grow here came from scratch grain, and they throw more seeds down, but that's not perfect for collecting seeds for feed. The birds just eat them where they fall. But I got other sunflower varieties, and I'm going to grow, ones with bigger heads, so the seeds are easier to collect. I would think wheat, rye, oats, any of the grains, and as much as you can for 50 chickens. Because them, they'll eat grain every day if you feed it to them. So a variety. And another thing you can do to feed all your animals is dehydrate those weeds. Go out there and get the clover and the curly dock and the lamb's quarter. They love grape leaves. They love cleaver, the weed that's like a long stringy thing and it grows burrs on it. Pretty much any weed goats love. Chickens will eat a lot of that too. Grass, if you mow your lawn, just keep your clippings and dry that somewhere and bag that up and keep it for them. Don't bag it up wet, because then it'll just compost, but dry it and then keep it. Yeah, anyway, the last 2 storms here in South Central Missouri took out 2 of our 20-year-old. Oh, that's terrible, Oldie. I'm so sorry. Sunflower seeds are good for chickens and humans and goats. Goats like them too. Don't post a link. Just tell me the name of the channel. I would like to check it out. Lampkeeper, I said go ahead and post it if you wanted to. You're welcome. Peas and amaranth is something my chickens love. Exactly. My ducks love peas. Wild peas are not a thing that you would want to grow for them, but domestic for sure. And you can dried peas and they'll last a really long time. And amaranth is that weed. You can buy a domestic variety of it, of course, and I think I have, and it was red. But it's that they call it pigweed in this area. It's a spiky weed that grows in cattle fields a lot of time, and it's pretty big, and it grows the little seeds, which amaranth is. Like if you make amaranth bread, that's where you're getting the flour, these little seeds. But the goats and the chickens love that stuff. So pretty much any weed in your area. Suggestion for another research topic, Sister Kate. Love to know more about carbon dating and controversies in that field if they catch your interest. Tina, for sure. The thing about carbon dating, I'm not a perfect expert on that, is that they take a radioactive isotope with a certain half-life, and they find it in objects around. Let's pretend they found my hat. They find that isotope in something like this board, and because it has a half-life that they know the length of, they approximate how old this is by what that carbon thing in the wood is. And so to me, it's not exact. And things can throw it off. So you're guessing something. Now, I'm not saying archaeology is not to be trusted. I'm just saying that sometimes scientists will make theories based on information they have that don't always make sense to me. One thing I have noticed is a lot of archaeological sites, they try to find different things like pottery, because they have so many samples of so much pottery that they have started to be able to say, okay, these kind of people made this pottery this way, and so it's probably in this time frame. I hope that helps. Let's watch the adjectives. There you go, Wes. Thank you. Ducks love slugs and snails too. That's right. And they like other bugs. Ducks are pretty, they eat a lot of grasshoppers, and chickens do too. I mean, you could, I've heard people do, oh, it's a kind of worm, excuse me. Wow. And they sell them in stores too. I can't think of the name of it. Even worms, if you dry them, if you dry grasshoppers or crickets or things, you can feed that to your fowl and your chickens. All right. Chickens love a sticky weed that grow around and up fences. It's skinny and sticks to your clothes. David, that's exactly what I was talking about. They call it creeper. Curly dock is delicious. Mealworms, that's it. Chefy, thank you. Mealworms. Red wigglers work too. Night crawlers work too. My grandfather told me once that I had better go have a better chance getting net wire fence to hold water than keep a goat in. Constitutional homestead. That's why I use cattle panels. Cattle panels are very sturdy, and all goats are not going to try to get out of them unless they have nothing left to eat. They've worked very well for me. Soldier fly larva, that's another good one. Mealworms, that's right. Chickens like to eat the scorpions here in the Mojave. Yeah, they like to eat them here too. We have wood scorpions and they gobble them right up. Locusts are coming this year. Mrs. Hermit Hill, Kentucky, thank you for bringing that up. They're not coming to all of the Americas, but the locusts are coming to the East Coast. And the first thing when Pastor told me that, or we read it, I said the same thing. Tons of food. That is tons of food for your chickens and your ducks. All you got to do is catch it and dry it, and you will have years worth. And if you're biblical like we are, you could eat the locusts too, right? I think locusts are one of the things that we're allowed to eat, but that's food that's going to be falling right out of the sky and crawling on the ground, and you should be getting 5-gallon buckets full of those guys. Free food. Come on now. That's helpful. I hope half-lives make a lot of sense to understand that other factors can affect that too. Right. I mean, so many things could be wrong with that wood that they're getting this isotope from. It could have gotten burnt, or, termites could have eaten it, whatever, that it's not exact. Anyway, electric fences are great teachers. They sure are, but they can get messed up by things like the weeds growing too tall, or your battery getting weak. Yes, Mary, CBS News, Jane, I was thinking about mealworms. Locusts don't like flamethrowers. No, they don't. I just use ground enemies to supplement my chicken feed. Exactly. Cicadas, same thing. Someone said Gesundheit. Thank you. They hit Africa pretty bad last year. They sure did. They tore through Yemen and that whole part of the world. Aid. Jalapeno peppers are good for deworming chickens. The heat doesn't hurt them. We release loads of mantis. Northern Arkansas homesteading, that's a great thing to do to get rid of a lot of the bugs, is to just get praying mantis eggs online and let them go. Clean, but not sure if I'm up to eating. Think of getting an acre or 3. Would that be enough for 2 to 3 people? D.L. Hemingway, it depends on what you want to do with it. There are some really good articles and books on being self-sufficient on 5 acres. There's also, what's the name of that family in LA that was on that 1/4 acre? Yeah, I think it was actually a 1/10 of an acre. The Devorez family. There's a documentary on them. They were a family in Los Angeles that did sort of vertical farming, if you want to call it that, growing plants in Anaheim in bins and things. They stacked their bins with dirt in them and grew so much stuff on their tenth of an acre, third of an acre plot in Anaheim that they were selling it to stores nearby and giving them to neighbors. So
very intensively gardened.
yeah, they intensively gardened, and an acre to 3 acres, absolutely for 2 to 3 people would be enough as long as you utilized it. You can plan it so that you have whole systems that support each other. Like if you have rabbits, using the rabbit manure as onto your garden, because rabbit manure does not have to be composted, and then in your garden growing things that you can then feed back to your rabbits, like carrots and milo and alfalfa and so on. So yeah, you can do it. You just have to be very intentional. Bama Buckeye says, we're about to get hit hard with cicadas here in Ohio. Hope the chickens like to eat them. And I'm telling you, save them. Get a net out there. The Asia food chain has been severely disrupted.
I can grow your own.
Okay, I'm way behind. I am way behind. Right, it depends on the workload you're willing to commit to and what you're allowed. Hey, see you, Utterback. Good evening. It depends on what you're allowed in your area too. If you have 1 acre and you're allowed to have things like chickens or a goat or some sheep or turkeys or geese or whatever, you can be way more productive. You can have a lot more going on than if you can only garden. And I'm not saying only garden as if that's a bad thing. Gardening is amazing. And the first thing you're going to want to do if you get your acre to 3 DL is start planting some fruit trees. And when you plant them, keep in mind they're going to be 20 feet across when they're mature. So space them out a bit, because in 7 years when they start producing fruit, that's a lot of food. All right, let's see what else. Like I told my boss, surely I can do it. It's just more work. Exactly. And you can be smart about it. I'm going back to the old ways, living a simple life. That's what a lot of people are doing. I'm not against modern life. Our lights, our solar system, very modern, having a cell phone and doing a live stream on YouTube, very modern. I'm about having the best of both worlds and not saying no just because, if you get my drift. All right, let's see what else is going on. Cicadas are probably not clean, but they are not actually insects. Are kind of related to shrimp. Right, cicadas and locusts are 2 different things. Your animals are going to eat them both, but I don't think we're allowed to eat cicadas. Our potatoes and greens, such as lettuce, are doing fantastic. I'm so glad. Long live the Amish. Well, they do, but they have their own issues, and so it's no choice is perfect. But there are choices, I think, some smarter and better than others. As far as potatoes, I just planted some potatoes. We are so late in getting the potatoes in the ground. And my daughter gave me a book on Irish, like, folk skills. I should have brought the book out here. I'm not going to go look for it right now. But in it, I read a technique where you cut the area you're going to put your potatoes in. You don't even have to, like, if there's grass and weeds, you don't have to get in there and pull them all. You just cut the sod into a square and you fold the square towards the middle so the 2 ends meet. Like if this is the ground, you cut it and then you fold it here and you plant your potatoes in the middle part. And all the weeds are tucked inside, so they break down in there and help feed the potato. And it worked. It has worked really well so far. And by digging it out from here, what you cause is rows. Kind of a ditch on this side. When you flip this over, you've got this space, so the water runs down in there and they don't get too wet. Shalom, chasing life. How have I been? It's great to see you. I've been super busy, and life has thrown some curveballs this year. It's been a hard 4-5 months. But the land is being very productive. I think you guys saw that bowl let me show you that bowl, the first live stream of all the eggs I gathered today.
All right.
Can y'all see that? That's about, stop. That's about 2/3 of the eggs I gathered today. So the chickens are doing awesome. And I've got snake picture number 3 and 4 that I need to post on the channel yet, because it was yesterday or the day before I went down to the ducks and the mama duck was doing the thing where she's in outside of where she's nesting in the little supposed snake proof cage, freaking out. Caught the third snake, and my daughter and I went and rehomed it and went to get more straw to put down in the coop where the ducks live. Pulled the black plastic back, and there's another black snake. So got the fourth one today, bagged it up, rehomed it where I took the third one because I think it's a mating pair. I think it's a male and a female. So they're far away. But the mama duck is still sitting on eggs. She still has some eggs in her nest, even though she's had like, I think 9 stolen out from under her. I think she started with maybe over 20, so there's still some under her, and it would be amazing if she managed to get those ducklings hatched. I put cucumbers in hanging baskets due to lack of space. It's working so far. Hey, Sue, sounds good. Just make sure to keep them moist. Cucumbers like a lot of water. Those darn snakes are all over. Something ate a chicken today. My favorite chicken. Oh my gosh. That couldn't have been a snake. It had to have been something bigger, right, Wes?
Yes.
Nice amount of eggs. That's about 2/3 of the total. I think literally I picked up about 60 eggs. Now that's not all laid in one day. That's like 5 days of laying, and I didn't pick them all up. Thank you for all that you do. We officially cooped 3 days ago, off-grid in our RV. Tonight is our first hot shower. My wife is so excited. Well, congratulations, and I hope you enjoy it. There's Sergeant Janes. I love that YouTube doesn't notify me of anything anymore. Sergeant Janes, YouTube, God bless him. Like, this is the 3rd try at this live stream. It just cut out on me. Appalachian Prepper says, poor little duck. I know, she's trying so hard, and she gets so upset when the snakes are in there. That's how I know they're in there. And then I go in and I take them out, and as soon as I walk past her with the snake and she sees it's leaving, she goes back in. So she's pretty smart. Will the locusts go rancid in storage, or does that matter? Bill Daniels, great question. That's why I said gather them up and dehydrate them. They will go rancid if you just took the locust, whether it was alive or dead, and just stuck it in something like a bucket. It's definitely going to rot. So they have to be dehydrated. They have to be dried. And you could do it in your car. In the summertime, just put them on a tray in there. You might have to parboil them for like a minute, and then, or you could freeze them. You could freeze them. I just watched the Coneheads movie. That's got to be old.
That's one of these.
I had my first piece of chess pie. Amazing. What is chess pie? I just now seen this too, said Appalachian Prepper. Yeah, sometimes the notices don't go out. And I usually don't give a whole lot of warning beforehand either. It's kind of spontaneous for me to do a live stream. So that's probably part of it. Isolate the setting bird. Other birds will take the freshly hatched chicks out from the setting hen or duck. They also, those chicks can be taken by snakes too. So I do have a cage made of hardware cloth that I think the snakes may not be able to penetrate, but she's not nesting in that. She's nesting in a different container, and so I put that hardware cloth thing right up against it. So if they hatch out, they're going to step out from it into the other one, and I'm going to turn the hardware cloth one up and put them all inside of it so that hopefully the snakes can't get at them. All right. I did my Going Noah t-shirt. Yeah, I got mine today. I might even be able to get it for you. Hang on. I threw it over here. Shameless plug.
They could actually still order them.
Pastor said
I thought they were closed, but they didn't.
Pastor said it's still available too, but no, I got my Going Noah t-shirt. There it is right there. I think they did a really nice job of it, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Build your ark, right? Shameless plug. And on the back, excuse me, Viking preparedness. So, got it. Fox or a coyote, right? The ducks that are missing in my thing were probably my own dogs. I love this time of year. My chickens are 100% free range. They are 3 years old and laying like crazy. We normally, well, ours free ranged all winter, but now that we have a garden in, Pastor has his peas right out in the middle of it, and they're unprotected by anything. And so we can't let the chickens get in there and tear them up. So they're in their run. But I do, like today, I had a whole, I don't have a wheelbarrow. Wheelbarrows are very awkward for me. So I have a sled. I have like a kid's sled that's plastic toboggan, not huge, and it was full of weeds, and I dumped it into the run today. I give them things so they have stuff to, scratch through and stuff like that. What are you doing with the extra eggs? Mrs. Hermit Hill, I give them away, and a lot of times I'll boil them, but with this many, I'm actually thinking of doing the pickled eggs things and a big crock. I have a 3-gallon crock, and I'm seriously considering pickling them in there. We're hoping to move into our camper around September, October to put more money towards being debt-free. We will have access to electricity and water. Any tips you can offer? I sure can. I actually kind of liked camper living because there's not a lot of space, and so we had to be very organized. And that's the key to living in a camper, is to be organized, to have wherever your storage is designated for that thing. Like if you have a shower in the back and all that, have your toilet paper area, have your, where your hair stuff goes, where the shampoo and everything, it's got to be in its spot, and you don't switch it around, and you don't mistake it. You make sure everything goes where it's supposed to, and supplement the storage in the camper. Like we saw a family who they had the bed that was up top, like you could fold it up or let it down. So they had this single wide bed let down, and then they had bought those narrow, long bins. They're about 4 or 5 inches deep, and they're real long. And those things fit right on that, on that single wide bed area. And they could stack them. You could have 2 or 3 of those bins, and, they kept their clothes in those things. And that made a lot of sense to me. So organization is huge in a camper. You have so much information. You need to do more chats. Well, thanks, Ann Johnson. You guys think of more things you want to talk about, because I come up with a topic, but I'd rather, if you have a question, that we discuss that question too, so you get information that you need. Oh, Soyo Peace got one, and Bama Buckeye. Well, thank you for ordering them. Do you pickle eggs? Easy preservable protein, especially if you like vinegar, right? I haven't done it yet, but there's no reason why you can't. And so that's why I want to try it. Collect them and put them in a bucket with a lid. Pour iso alcohol in with them and replace the lid. Wait about 30 minutes to an hour, then remove the lid and spread them out to dry. They will be dead. I thought I would boil them. Wes, is that the only way to do it? Bill Daniels got a shirt. Aid likes pickled eggs. They're tasty, but didn't get warm enough to take the hoodie off. Aw. Will you be doing a video on pickling eggs? I might. My food prep videos are not my most popular videos. I don't get a lot of views on them. But I do I have 4 videos that I shot for someone else about the sorghum and cooking with sorghum, and I'm going to release a couple of those when her project is finished, and I think those are pretty good videos, or pretty good instructional ones. So it's possible. It's possible. Laugh out loud. They have a spigot. Are you talking about the shirt? And shalom, revolting man. Will chickens eat termites? Are they good natural defense and prevention for termites? Well, see, Utterback, I think they'll eat them if they see them. But the thing about termites is they're usually underground. That's where they grow, and in rotted wood. And so if the chickens can see them and get at them, I think they'd eat them, but they're not always there. Like on our property, the termites do their flight this time of year, and they just come barreling out of the ground, a whole bunch of them at once, but you can't predict where that's going to happen. So I don't think they're a reliable control for termites. We'll be camping at the self-storage facility where I work. Extra eggs, boiled, scrambled, poaching cakes, pancakes, scrambled eggs, boiled eggs, egg salad sandwiches, quiche, which I haven't done yet, but you can. And there's a kind of a there's a kind of a cake. I think it's called Sally Nunn bread or cake or something. Dolly Madison. Takes 12 eggs to make it. I was thinking about doing that too. How would you build up poor soil for a garden? Okay, so Brandon, that's a good question. That is what we do. We don't often buy. Sometimes we get to go get good topsoil, but there's a lot of additives that you put in the soil to make it better, including bone meal and blood meal. And if you do a compost pile, composted materials, you layer them, and it's things like corn cobs and cucumber peels and yeah, vegetable type throw-offs layered with things like grass and leaves and so on and twigs, and then some manure of some kind or some nitrogen rich thing like what's our nitrogen rich thing we're throwing in there? We use manure. Oh, why can't I think of it? Doggone it. Anyway, you have to add all that stuff to your soil and it improves it. A vermiculite will help it be lighter, and or if you have clay soil, it'll make it break up. If you have sandy soil, vermiculite helps it hold water. So does peat moss. I got 13 fertilizer this year and sprinkled that on our garden. I sprinkled bone meal and blood meal on our garden, and some gypsum, which is kind of like vermiculite. So those are some of the things you can do to improve your soil. I know Brother Chris took his eggshells and just throws them on the garden, and they walk on them and they grind them in. That adds calcium to your soil. So pretty much anything you do will improve your soil quality, but you got to know if your soil is more clay-like or more sand-like, because you add the other to get it to a medium. If it's sandy, you add clay. If it's clay, you add sand. Okay. I've been off-grid in my camper for 5 years now, looking for land to homestead now. MJ, good luck. United Country Realty has a lot of rural properties listed. Oh, isopropyl alcohol for grasshoppers. Okay. Have you ever watered glassed eggs? I haven't done it. I have the water glass, but I've always got so many eggs, I don't even bother. We still have half a bucket from last year. Awesome. Wells were fine. Okay, I'm behind again. Well, here we go. Rabbit poop is great to the garden. There you go. Dean the Cool. That's right. See, thank you for helping me. Rabbit poop is perfect because it'll go right on and it won't kill the plants. things like horse manure, cow manure, chicken manure, all have to be composted. They have to be let sit for a year before the nitrogen won't burn your plants. Wood chips too, right? Would blood meal be unclean? If you ate it, but you're not going to eat it, you're going to put it in the soil. A rabbit mama had babies 2 weeks ago, but 4 died and 3 are doing good. Well, good for her. If rabbit is wet, it will burn them. Go to your local college extension. Most of them have a soil testing kit you can buy to test your soil before you know, etc. United Country Who for land? United Country Realty for land, for rural land. That's basically what they list. Okay. All right. Does anyone pickle eggs? Okay. All right. I'm almost at an hour. Normally I only do these things for an hour. So with 8.5 minutes left, does anyone have any other questions or comments on grand solar minimum? Again, I'm not convinced it's a thing, but I do know that weather is cyclical, and if it's going to be cold, then we need to change our mindset about our prepping. Okay, cool. I didn't miss it. Westhold, we got 9 minutes, buddy. Do you have any comments or questions? How is the dog? Which dog? Pastor Joe's dog? I was out at the forge. What were you making? Sister, thank you for your live stream. You're a blessing to us. You're a super blessing to me and my family. I am off to sleep. Well, good night, brother. Get good rest. And thank you for the kind words. Osoyo peace. Yes. And Westhold was making the Seax. She is fine. She's got some weird discoloration on her side that most likely is a hormonal thing, and so I've been treating it with apple cider vinegar because that's what was recommended online. Sheep poop is not supposed to burn, but I compost it anyway. That's probably a good, good caution. I don't do my goat stuff. It's too hard for me to get it all in one place. Are you going to prepare for another deep freeze this coming winter? See, Utterback, I don't know if, the Farmer's Almanac or somebody says it's going to be cold, then yeah, we actually would prepare for that. We'd get more wood put up and make sure that we have all our winter clothes and things ready. But we do that every year for the wood stoves and things. I bought several extra heaters after this last big freeze. Well, that's a good idea. I mean, we try not to count on heaters per se because we have wood heat, but that's not a bad idea, and we always have a few around. You need the propane though to power it. I just got on what is a grand solar minimum. Clary, I would Google it. I don't have a lot of time to go into all that. It is a weather phenomenon that scientists are predicting is going to happen from now till 2053, which means a general cooling off of the planet. All scat that I know has to be dried before used as a fertilizer. Okay. As a ham, there is an 11-year cycle of solar activity that affects our radios, and we definitely are in a minimum in the 11-year cycle. So there you go. The cycle does affect the ham radios. Okay, Storm Chaser, random, not so random. Factoid I saw the other day. Soil temperature average across Oklahoma is a month behind for where it should be. Very bad for crops. That's a really good observation, Oki, and I'm glad you brought that up because something I learned from my friend who I was the apprentice for, and she was teaching me about sorghum. Sorghum you don't even plant it until the soil temperature is 60 degrees. And since our particular area had a really hard cold day not that long ago, I'm sure our soil is still taking a while to warm back up. Now, lots of the things that I planted, like the Swiss chard that I've shown in another video, Swiss chard's going to get, like a foot, 2 foot tall. But right now it's going pretty slow. So it's still only 4 or 5 inches. And it's interesting to me how the crops I've planted, the domesticated seeds are going so slow. The mustard that was there last year is big. It's up and it's going to seed. That curly dock, that burdock I told you, that leaf that's 1.5 feet long, that cold weather does not seem to have affected it at all. All the trees around here have all their leaves on them. The grass has grown because of all the rain. We've got grass out here 2 feet tall. So it's kind of interesting that the wild stuff doesn't care, but the domestic stuff, the crops, are affected by it. Westhold, I love your comment. Grand solar minimum. So are we heating up or are we cooling down? I can't keep up. That's one of my points. Like, how do you have global warming and yet you have a grand solar minimum? Like, the press, the media, I think they give you both opposing views to just make us confused so that we'll just follow whoever tells us jump. We're going to say how high. Stack up more feed for the critters. Constitutional Homestead said. Exactly. You're welcome, Mrs. Hermit Hill. Hey, Raincat Studio. Shalom, shalom. I'm only on about 4 more minutes. If you have a question, please ask. Coming out of the minimum now, Hamwise says Tank. Other countries like China and the UK have recorded the GSM in their history, but the US is young and has no one, so a lot of us have no knowledge of it. Right, and that whole thing I talked about, the Maunder minimum, was in Europe. And the guys who were recording sunspots at the time were in, I think, Germany and Italy. So that's a really good point. Americans, our country's only 250 years old. We've, we had I think the biggest snowstorm in New York was in 1888. And then in 1934, there was this huge snowstorm in the West, 30-foot drifts. I mean, we don't have enough data to make these generalizations. The place we did sorghum last year is supposed to be planting at least twice as much this year for us to harvest. Westhold, we need to talk, buddy. I'd love to get some from you. I really am impressed with sorghum. Yes, it's true, Raincat. I haven't been live in a while. We are prepped for no power from thunderstorms. Power failures here frequently. Well, that is smart. A lead one. Everyone should be prepped for that. Thank you for sharing another video. You and PJ have a great teaching ability. Thank you very much, Rick. Ocean water is cool too. Usually my Mother's Day bluefish are in the bay and nothing much this year. Interesting, Dirty Reaper. Do you think Fukushima is affecting the oceans? Because I do. All that radioactive water. Vegetables are doing okay, but the watermelon and cucumbers are hating this. We need some heat, and soon. Yeah, my cukes aren't real big. Not much growing here but grass. You should miner's lettuce. Is the miner's lettuce up there, Raincat? I have to jet. Good night, all. Good night, Revolting Man. Always good to see you. Say hello to Sister Mariah. There you go. My volunteer tomatoes are doing as well as the ones I started inside from seed, right? These plants, they just know it on their own. Time to turn in. Got to get the day started at 4. Shalom. All right, Constitutional Homestead. Good night. Georgia Guidestones, just saying. It's crazy seeing y'all live. Well, Arkansas Living, I've done several live streams. Hope it's not too crazy. That's why folks seed save. Seed localized to your specific climate and soil conditions, right? I mean, the lamb's quarter I brought with me is doing just fine. Those weeds. Love you too, Tim. I'm going to say goodbye. Peace. cooling down. Hey, make connection with PNWV and Bad Wabbit. We'll be meeting up soon. Great. Great. I'm glad to hear that, Rain Cat. They're a great bunch of people. We're headed for a reset. Starts with an ice age. The hotel, the hotter it gets, the more the ice melts, and desalination will cause an ice age. Well, get ready for it. There's Grandma Ginger's farm. I'm about to sign off. If you have any comment or question, GGF, I'm happy to answer it. Think Day After Tomorrow. I love that movie. It's really cool. On the dog, it looks like seasonal flank alopecia. That's what we thought too. And she's done a lot of licking, and that's why I sprayed her with hydrogen peroxide and I'm wiping her with the ACV. And we didn't notice it for like 6 years, but as a pup, she had a thing where her coat was one way and it looked rough in patches, and then it fell out and it grew back in. So yeah, I think you're right. Good diagnosis. Ask the natives what they saw. They probably haven't been asked. That's a good comment, Mark. Good night, y'all. Have a great weekend. The Pueblo Indians know about GSMs. They didn't know what it was, but it ruined their culture. Right? Y'all ain't doing raised beds anymore, right? Arkansas Living, that's not true. We are going to start doing more raised beds, but not like we did in the past. We're not doing like the 2 foot tall ones. Pastor did like a 4 foot tall one, and we're going to do those because we're getting older and it's easier. Same to you, Andy. I love having a wood stove and would recommend everyone to have one. Me too. Fukushima, because it could at least give us a Godzilla. We don't Pacific hot eat anything Pacific hot anymore. I don't blame you. That's right, Bama. Snowing here in Colorado right now. She's having grand solar minimum in Colorado if it's snowing. All right. Been sitting in on your live stream. Good to see you. Enjoy these so much. Well, thanks, Baz Mama. I like seeing you guys. Good night. Night. Thank you. I feel blessed. I finally got to see another one of your lives. Thank you, Sister Kate. Oh, good, Bama Buckeye. Trying over and over to start elderberry from cuttings, 0 results. I haven't done it myself, but another girl that I know did, and she started the cuttings first in water and got them to root, and she cut them in the February timeframe, and then was supposed to transplant them to soil. So if you haven't done that yet, Raincat, maybe you try that. And I also heard that elderberries have to go through a bird's gut system as a seed. So just taking a seed and then planting it won't do. You have to striate the seed with some sort of something rough, and then maybe even soak it and plant it. All right, y'all, I'm going to go. Shalom. Bless you. Thanks for sitting in. See you next live stream. Good night, good night, good night. Good night, Mark. Sorry, we're getting off right as you got on. Good night. Yep. Bless you. Shalom.